Hello everyone, welcome to the last Table Talk of 2025. Whoa, I can hear you all saying hang on, there's another Saturday to go before the end of the year. Well, yeah, I am aware of that, but I need that time for editing things like showcases and that sort of stuff. It takes up a huge amount of time. So not doing a Table Talk between Christmas and New Year is going to help me with that. So this is the last one, but don't worry, we're going to do all the usual stuff. We're going to look back at the week, we're going to look at stash ads and what's coming up in the next week or two, but we're also going to look back at the whole of 2025 and we're going to have a look, get our crystal ball out and see what 2026 looks like. It's all happening in this, the last Table Talk of 25. Right then, let's get going. First of all, a massive warm welcome to lots and lots of new subscribers. It's really great to see you on the channel. Lots of people have come to the channel through the Christmas gift ideas for modelers. At the time of recording this, I've had 46 new subscribers off the Christmas gift video, which, you know, really surprised me. But yes, welcome to you all. What do we do in Table Talk? Well, we don't do any modelling. What we do is we talk about what happened last week, what's coming up. So this is a bit of a special episode. We're going to go a bit deeper than usual. So itinerary for today's episode is this. What happened last week? What happened on the workbench? Stash ads. What's coming up in 2026 and a surprise group build that I've not mentioned before. Okay, all of that's going on in this episode, and maybe some stuff that appears at a tangent from the distance and comes riding in. You just never know. You don't know because I never script any of this. We're making it up as we go along, a bit like everything else we do on the channel. So let's just roll back on last week. We started on Sunday with a little reminder to get your models into the showcase. Some of you have managed to accept that rallying cry and send me your pictures. So thank you to everyone who's contributed. That's now done, over with. You know, you can't send your pictures in for the showcase, but you can still send your photos in for the floaty things. That doesn't close until the 31st of December. Okay, that's your last day for getting pictures to me for floaty things. Okay, so I just want to be clear on that because there was a little bit of confusion somehow. Then on Monday, we had the next part of the General Lee, part 4 I think it was, where we were looking at some of the detail work that needed to be done on the bodywork, and then we started the engine, and yeah, so we'll talk more about the General Lee in 2026, but yeah, it's a right old slog that it's fighting me all the way, that kit, but there will only be one winner, and it absolutely won't be that plastic kit. Tuesday we opened receiving photos for the floaty things. So just a quick reminder, you can have up to 4 pictures per model, as many models as you like, as long as it's within the rules of the floaty things. Don't worry if you're saving your pictures for the Sherborne showcase. You can show your Sherborne in both. Different people are likely to watch the video, so it's all good. You can build your Sherborne and you can show it in the Sherborne showcase and the floaty thing showcase. It's all good. So that was that. Then on Wednesday we had the Lady Nelson, which is a Chris Wotton kit that has been that was designed when he was at his time with a Matty, and it's a nice kit, but you get a feel for where it falls short if you've been watching my first impressions of the Vanguard kits. And I think probably the biggest weakness was the gun trucks, which are plastic and nasty and just don't look right. Don't like them at all. So yeah, but all in all, not a bad kit. A bit more labour intensive because you've got to lay individual deck planks, but at the better end of the wooden ship spectrum. If you think about how wooden model ships have evolved, if you went back sort of 10 years, if you like, that would have been at the very top end of the standard for wooden model ships 10 years ago. Absolutely it would have. So, you know, you sometimes think that wooden ship modelling hasn't really evolved, but it has. It's travelled quite a long way, and that's accelerated recently. I personally think with 3D printing and one or two other materials coming around. So yeah, there's definitely stuff that I'm guessing would be done differently. The other element in there is cost point and design constraints. Again, something you don't really come across in a Vanguard's kit. So yeah, I when I was filming it, all these things were pinging off in my head about that's different, that's different, that's different, because essentially it's the Sherborne kit. So what I thought would be nice to do would be to do a comparison of the two. So watch this space, because that is coming very soon. So Thursday, a little video to tell you that the showcase was closed. There is always someone who sends me pictures afterwards. If it's not appropriate for the floaty things, after Thursday it'll just get deleted because I need to be putting things in. So as I'm recording this, it's not Thursday yet, but I've already started editing the showcase video. So it takes time. You've got to put the 4 pictures in. You've got to scale the pictures. Some of the pictures might need a little bit of a adjustment. I've got to put a name in for everyone. I've got to check and double check that that's correct. We've got to get music in it. We've got to front end it, back end it, what have you. It takes so much time, you wouldn't believe. So we've started, but I can't focus on, I'll just squeeze this one in. If you missed the cutoff, you missed the cutoff. It's simple as. Okay, Friday, Panzer 6. My intention is that will be the last one. So hopefully, not edited it yet, hopefully that will complete the build series of the Panzer 1. And that's done within 2025, which was sort of the intention. So that's good. Yeah, and reflecting on the Panzer 1, it was a nice model that went together well. Easy to build, easy to paint, easy to follow instructions. My only real issue with it is that you've not got the ability to put insides in if you wanted to, because of the way they've arranged bracing inside the actual hull of the tank, and that all your vision ports have to be modelled closed, which obviously is either in close quarters fighting or parked up in the car park only, So those are my only 2 real issues with it. Otherwise, I felt it went together quite well. The track, the way they've done the Lincoln length track was a bit odd. It's a bit fiddly because they've put the joints of the track not quite as squarely in the middle of the wheels as they perhaps should have done. So you've not got the stability where you've got the join. It'd be nice to have the join right in the middle of the track, in the middle of the wheel, so that the track has got as much support as possible underneath that joint, but they didn't do that, so it was a bit tricky. But all in all, a very nice kit. Glad I built it. It was fun messing around with the Tamiya enamels. I love the Tamiya enamels. Would I replace my Humbrol enamels with them? Possibly not, but I have to think about how many different paint systems I've got, because I've got lots of them. And I like using enamels wherever I can. So I'm likely to expand the range of Tamiya paints, and when I need a colour, and I really want that colour to be an enamel, I'd probably see if I can get it in Tamiya first, is where I'm going to be, and then Humbrol second. And I know Revell do enamel paints, and I see them as equally as good as Humbrol. I've not used Revell enamel paints recently, so I don't know what their reformulation is like. Maybe that's something to look at next year. So yeah, liked the paints. Model was good, yeah, and I thought it looked all right on the little display with the leaves when done. So what happened on the bench? Well, we were working on the Eagle, and what we've done is we've finished putting the decals on, and blimey, there's a lot of decals. There are so many decals, and you end up sort of going a bit freehand. So I'll show you. That's the top. So that's our command module with all its decals on. Look in the business, just got to paint the black in. So the engine assembly with all the tanks on, that's done. So the engine bells need to be painted up in a high polished aluminium. I think we're going to use lacquer paint to get a good look at that. The same paint that I used on the Bulldog in 2024. So yeah, we've also, what happened with these is we ended up just starting to go freestand, because the instructions actually covered off about 2, then me additional decals and instructions. The instructions were so poor, you couldn't really make out what was supposed to go where, plus the arrangement of the plastic parts was different than, I mean, panels that we've not even got on there. So yeah, so I've ended up going freestyle on where we put the decals on there, but I used all the decals that were on each section for each one of the I'm not quite sure what they're called, pods. So yeah, all done. I've put some additional decals on the top there just to break things up, but yeah, it's all looking good. So the next step, which might get done before the end of this week, is to do some of the assembly of this. It's not far off done. We've got figures to paint, assembly to do, and then some detail painting left. So we've got the solar panels to paint, 1 or 2 black elements, the little arrays on the command module, the sensor arrays need to be painted in, the engine bells need to be done, and the feet need to be painted up, assembled and installed. So there's a bit to do. I'm hoping I can get this finished over the holiday period, and it be sort of done and dusted for the new year. That's my hope, that's my aim. We will see. So yeah, but I'm very happy with how it's come together. So the other thing that was on the bench was, since we last spoke, was I've completed the weathering on the Lady Eleanor. I'm not going to show you that. I'm also hoping to complete the Lady Eleanor for over the holiday period. So we're going to go into 2026 with those 2 models completed, but the build series for them carrying on, rolling over. But that means that we'll have a fresh start, and we'll talk about all of that in a little while. But that's what happened on the bench. Great progress this week. It was really nice to see. I managed to get some modelling done and achieved something. So the decals took 3 sessions that were typically 5 hours long each. I think the last one was a bit shorter, maybe only 3 hours. So you're looking at somewhere between 12-13 hours ish to do all of this decals. So yeah. Okay, right, so let's talk about stash ads. So I've been capitalising on the sales and bits and pieces that have been going on, and as I said to you at the end of last week, I had some stuff on order and I was waiting for that to be delivered. So as I'm starting to get into building cars, and I think that's going to be a bit of a feature next year, I thought I'd buy into this. So I'm going to do a book review. Members are already aware that I've got this. I'm going to do a book review. What I'd say is this is really all about showcasing MIG Ammo products primarily. And so a lot of it focuses on how to use MIG Ammo's products, which in itself can be really useful. But yeah, you've got 6 kits in the book that are covered off. 3 of them, which is that one, and I think that one, are all 1/12 scale metal and resin kits. Really expensive Hero Boy, not Hero Boy, I forget the brand, but really expensive kits that aren't for everybody. The other 3 are plastic kits, and so for most people, I think half of the book is not really relevant, although there are some interesting painting techniques and stuff like that. I don't think I've learnt a lot from this. I mean, the picture on the front is from a 1/12, so you're not going to achieve that in plastic, or it'll be very difficult to, because you know nothing looks more like metal than metal, and that's what they've used. They've used metal for the engine parts. So the book itself, I would say, is probably useful if you like MIG Ammo products and you like building car models. Outside of that, I don't think you'd necessarily get much out of it, but I need to do a proper review of it and then you can decide for yourself. So that's the first stash ad. I don't often buy books because, being dyslexic, reading's not high up on my priority list, and I've got a load of novels that I'm in the process of reading, so that's taking up my time. Okay, I also got this. Now, some of you'll remember earlier in the year I bought the tanker version, and I really was between the two, the recovery truck and the tanker, and I went for the tanker. But when you're indecisive, the best thing to do is get both, innit? So I've got that one as well. I've got no intention of getting the tipper or the flatbed, but yeah, they are nice kits. So I need to do a review of it at some point, maybe over Christmas. But it's nice to have a sort of a 1950s tow truck. Gives me some options with car kits in the future to have one in tow, maybe, or something like that. So yeah, nice looking. There's a couple of different options in terms of decals, but you can mix and match some bits and make it very much your own. So yeah, very, very nice looking subject, and something a bit different, and I like that. So we got that, and we got this. Now, who amongst you enjoys the TV series Stranger Things? We are part way through the final season 5 of Stranger Things. I came into Stranger Things quite late. I think 3 seasons were out before I started watching it. Instantly loved it, and I have watched the whole thing. I've watched all the currently released episodes of season 5. I think the next lot of episodes are coming out in early in the new year or later this month or something. I'm not sure. So yeah, I've really enjoyed it, and I've started watching it again right from the start to make sure with an understanding of what's going on to better understand the continuity of the programme. So I've bought this. Revell have a number of vehicles from Stranger Things out. I quite fancy the pizza van as well, and I probably would have bought the pizza van over this, but it's out of stock everywhere. There is another vehicle coming out soon. Don't know which one it is, but I'm hoping it's the big ammo truck from season 5. They've said it's a vehicle that appears a lot in season 5. That's the only one I can think of, other than the metallic green Honda. But that's been in since the start, so I don't know that they'd be doing that, but maybe it is. Depending on what it is, I may get it, I may not. But anyway, I quite like this chunky old vehicle. So it's a Chevy Blazer. So you see these a lot in American programs, and one of the things I like about Stranger Things is it's set in the 80s, and even though it's set in the USA, I can relate to a lot of it, you know. So yeah, it's a bit like, if you've not seen it, it's a bit like Stephen King does E.T. is how I could best describe it. I really enjoy it, but I can, because it's got a sort of a horror value. It's only a 15. You know, creatures from another dimension involved. I get it's not for everyone, but I've quite enjoyed it. So I bought this. So it's skill level 4, 162 parts. It's got a full engine and what have you. But I've got this because I needed it for the surprise group build. So let's talk about 2026 and what's coming up, and we can talk about that a little bit more. But before we do that, we really do need to reflect on 2025. So 2025 started off really busy if you cast your mind back. We were about a third of the way through the Sherborne build at the start of the year. And we were also at the back end of the other build. What were the Endeavour? So the Amati Endeavour, which was a kit that massively underdelivered for me as I look back on it. It was plastic hull, so you don't have to mess around with the hull and stuff, and beginner's model, but they cut some corners that actually made it quite difficult to build. And if I'd built that as my first ever model kit, it probably would have put me off. And that's my biggest beef with kits that are aimed at beginners. That, you know, sometimes what they mean by that is we've made this kit cheaply. That's not the same thing. What beginners want is something that looks awesome and inspires them to do a second build, but they can achieve within their limited skill range. That's what a beginner's kit is. So if you think about Airfix starter sets, not gift sets, that's a different thing, starter sets, they're generally, I would say that, you know, that's how they work. They are simplified construction, and you end up finished with something that looks accurate. So the new Spitfire, Red Arrow 172 starter sets, they look as good as a much more complex kit would do. It's just it didn't take you anywhere near the steps to get there. So that's how it should be done. But in the wood world, that quite often means we've oversimplified, we've used generic parts, and we've made this cheaply, and that's a different thing. that's just knocking volume out and hoping you make a sale. But it's not building people to come into the hobby and stay in the hobby or be return customers. I mean, yeah, that endeavour, you can make a nice looking model out of it, but you really need a few models under your belt to get the best out of it, because there are some tricky bits in there. So yeah, I don't think it's a beginner's model if you've got to fabricate things, and you had to do some of that in there. But it looked all right when it was done. Many of you quite liked it. I think the biggest letdown for me was the sales. The sale material was dreadful and was falling apart. So I ended up walking away feeling disappointed with that build. And so I judge a finished model on how it makes me feel. And if you put it on a shelf and you keep looking at it, and that means you're pleased with it. So you're pleased with the model. If you do what I did with the Endeavour, which is go and put it in the attic and have not looked at it since, then you know you weren't that fussed about it, were you? So yeah, quite disappointing. But that's how we started off. We also had the first model show of the year, the Bolton model show. I will be going to the one in 2026. I always go to it. It's literally a 20-minute drive from my house. So everyone should go to the Bolton model show if you're within reach of it. It is a good show. It's on 2 floors. You know, there's plenty of club stands to have a look at, and plenty of people selling stuff that you don't really need but you must have. So lots going on there. So we did that. We reviewed the Black Hawk from ICM, which was a nice kit, but I've ended up getting rid of. Then what did we have? We had the Airfix Lysander, again another nice kit that's set up there waiting to build. We had the limited edition airbrushes that came from Gaahleri. So all sorts of stuff going on. And then in February we did a video on the mule, which, you know, we've used. Let me get you my mule down. So this is my 2025 mule. So what I do every year is I pick a kit, I chuck it together without paint, and it's what I use for experimenting on. And as you can see, over the course of the year, it gets built up with paint and glue, foil, all sorts of stuff that you play around with. So I have to have another one because it gets to a point where it's not usable. You need some virgin plastic and various other bits and pieces. So this will get scrapped and we'll pick another kit to build. So that'll be another thing in 2026. I think I know which one. I quite stupidly bought for £10 a mystery kit from Airfix. And the mystery kit I got was a kit that I could buy at that time from Airfix in the sale for £8. So not only did I pay over the odds, it was also a kit that I've built before, and when I built it I thought, God, this is rubbish. So I've got an expensive revisit of a kit that I thought was rubbish first time as my mystery kit. That'll teach me. Won't you know, don't buy a box when you don't know what's in it. I mean, what's all that about, really? I mean, talk about take your chances. Yeah, don't know what came over me there. So then also in February we started the build of the Junkers, the mini art kit, which I think the biggest challenge, as I remember, other than the fit issues with that and some of the poor engineering, the biggest issue really was getting the decals to sit. And it was really interesting when I was at Telford, there was one in the model show to be judged. Someone had put one in to be judged, and he had silvering on his decals. He'd struggled to get the decals to lie, and I thought, I feel your pain, but you ain't gonna win gold if you've got silvering on your decals, mate. So yeah, the Junkers, we started building that. Then we did the review of the Royal Barges. You'll have recently seen imagery on the showcase thumbnails of that. So yeah, that was February. Then we did a review of the Lady Eleanor, which later in the year we started building. Cool. The Weasel was March. I thought that was like May or June. As I'm looking at this, right, and then in March we did a couple of interesting things. I showed you how to rig a cannon. Still not showed you how to do a carronade, but that'll be coming up in 2026. And then we started the build of the Elizabethan in March, because that was the start of our classic kits subscriber group build. So we'll be talking more about the group builds as we go along. So we had that going on, we had the Sherborne going on. I think we'd by this point finished the Endeavour. Then in April we started the Tempo diorama. So we started making some progress on that. That's the one that you see in the opening credits with the Highlanders marching past playing the bagpipes. And then in May we started building the larger of the two Royal Barges. And someone asked me recently about a tutorial on how to paint the 3D printed resin ship's boats that you get in Vanguard's kits. Well, I've already done that. We've done that on the Royal Barge, how to paint the wood effects and what have you. That's been done. If you want to understand how to do it, go and see the Royal Barge. Will we do a standalone paint video on it? Maybe come the time when we've got a ship's boat to paint up, we might do. We're probably going to take one of the wooden ship's boats, possibly out of the Indy, and build that separately and do a how to build and detail a ship's boat. We might do that as well, because there's some extras we can put in. So yeah, all of that is possible next year. There's lots of ideas floating around my head, but yeah, we started the Royal Barge in the May. Also in May we had that review of that Viking ship kit, which now, by the way, because it's a Ukrainian manufacturer and it took ages to get to me and I had to pay a lot of tax. So a better way to get it if you're in the UK is to buy it direct from Vanguard Models, who now stocks them as well. So we had that as well. And then that got us to June, and we were well into Sherborne by June. We were in the last third of the build videos by that point. So yeah, I think we did a review of the Airfix HMS Prince in June, which was one of the first impressions highlights, quite a rare kit that was in good condition. And then it went on to one of the members who I really would like to hope we might see him build that in 2026. Who knows? June we had a couple of interesting first impressions as well. We had that fully 3D printed kit of the Matilda 1, which now you can go and get the plastic version from Gecko, of course. So yeah, we had that come out, and we also had a Matty re-release their classic Titanic kit, which they replaced all the paper that they use for the decorative parts with photo etch, and nicer wood overlay for decks, more sympathetic to the actual teak that would have been used, and just a general uplift in that kit. So yeah, we did that review. That was a two-parter because that was a pretty epic first impressions. July seemed to set the tone for the rest of 2025 for me, and the point that tone shifted was the release of the Stalwart, and that's when we saw everything sort of slip into negativity for me. That kit was quite clearly a dog and should not have been released and should not have got to people like that. And you know, Airfix can only look at themselves and point the finger at themselves for that. So even though it may have been an issue primarily with one of their suppliers, they should be in control of their suppliers. It's called supplier relationship management in the procurement world, and it's something that clearly was not, and possibly still is not, happening. So yeah, that was the low point of 2025 for me. I'd seen the kit built up at Bolton, and I was really excited for it. And interestingly, when I saw it at Telford, the same kit built up, it's nowhere near as bad as the stuff that went to market. There was no sink in it, there was no issues. One or two of the things that I'd missed looking at it, the design issues that were picked up when we reviewed the kit, they are there. I just missed them when I was at Bolton, and partly because at Bolton you saw the front and one side because of how they positioned it, and the missing eyes on one side of the tarpaulin were on the other side. So little bits and pieces like that. So yeah, the Stalwart, definitely the low point of 2025, which was a real shame, because you know, the Jaguar had been out, and for many people that was possibly the highlight of 2025 for them. And that was a super kit, a cracking kit, and I was glad to. I mean, I'm not fussed about jets as a rule. I think they all look a bit the same. It's a bit like modern motorbikes. They do nothing for me. They don't have character. Old motorbikes have got lots and lots of character, and you know, they all look slightly different, even though they're sort of built and designed around the same sort of principles. They all look slightly different, and you know, whereas modern motorbikes, they're all angular and jaunty and just, yeah, not pleasing on the eye at all, and all look the same. So I'm sort of like that with modern jets. So jets from the sort of mid 60s onwards, I think all are pretty boring. So you're never going to get me excited about the Jaguar or a Tornado or any of the other ones, a Eurofighter that I can bring to mind. Even the Harrier doesn't really do much for me, whereas other people I know are very passionate about it. But as a kit goes, the Jaguar kit was very, very nice. And then the Stalwart comes out, and you've sort of been built up by the Jaguar, and I've already seen it, and I know it's great, and I had loads of excitement, and I think my disappointment with the kit was even greater because I was coming down from a great height that I'd built myself up to because of what I'd already seen, not just in the way of the performance of Airfix to that day. I would argue that Airfix have been constantly improving year on year for a few years now, and then the Stalwart comes out, and it's, you know, it's old Airfix of the 90s, and you know, that should never have happened. So that was a real low point for me. But in the same month we had the Kubel half track from Meng, which was an absolute beautiful kit, little 135 Jeep size kit, absolutely stunning. Also in July we had the review of the Tripods model kits, and they were a personal joy for me. Most people, a lot of people didn't even know what the program was. So yeah, it's niche now, like anybody that's got a real interest in something that's no longer in public consciousness. It becomes a specialism, it becomes a cult. and it's a cult TV program, and I'm sort of in the cult when it comes to that. So I enjoyed that, but it's not the last time we'll be talking about tripods today. August was the month where a couple of things sort of came to an end. So we had the final part 30 of the Sherborne. And by that point I realised that the build series had been very well received, and yeah, it has been very, very well received. And when I look at my best performing videos of 2025, they are up there. But actually my best performing video of 2025 is my first impressions of the Indefatigable. So really interesting, because that's a 2024 kit. Now my best performing video of all time is a review of a Revell 1:72 scale U-bolt with all the photo etch and extra gubbins that comes with it in their platinum set. And when I look at the trend for views of that video, and I look at trend for the views of the Indefatigable, the Indefatigable has actually been a more popular video. And I say that because even though it's not had as many views, it's had 2/3 as many views, as in the U-boat's had 1/3 more views, but that U-boat has had an extra 2 years to achieve that. So all in all, the view rate of the impressions of the Indefatigable is greater than that of the U-boat. So it has become my best performing video, my most popular video of all time, the Indefatigable. Which means it will be popular when, and we will, absolutely will, build this on the channel at some point. Obviously it's not going to be in 2026. We have too many commitments in 2026, and Surprise is not dissimilar in size and complexity. So yeah, we've got to see what happens. Yeah, again, I don't want to get ahead on the talk on 2026. But as things come to an end, we also have things starting. So with the end of the Sherborne, we started the Lady Eleanor. And in the same month, we did the first impressions of the Grecian, which is the build that will follow Lady Eleanor. And again, we'll talk more about that in a moment. So yeah, August was a sort of a month of change. I think also the little diorama build came to an end in August, if memory serves me. So yeah, it was a busy month of change, August, and then we had the new paints that came along in August from Gaahleri, the Kaleido paint system. So yeah, that was really interesting. We did the visit to the Titanic exhibition in Manchester as well, and we also finished the Junkers build. So we did part 8 of that right at the end of the month in August. So a lot of change in the August period. So September saw the end of the classic group build and the showcase for that. We also started the Eagle build that I've just shown you. So that started in September, and we also started the Panzer 1 build in September. So yeah, new stuff coming on stream in September, and sort of felt like it was setting us up for where we would be for the rest of the year. One thing that only happened occasionally during the year to that point was Scharnhorst, and it wasn't seen again after early August, I don't think. Again, another subject that we will touch on later in the video. October is the month where I really started to up the game a little bit with the members only stuff. To to a certain degree, there was only a small number of members at the start of the year, so the effort was outweighed by the benefit of doing it, if for want of a better way of putting that. You know, it wasn't worth making specialist members only videos for a handful of people, but actually by October it had grown quite significantly, and I felt like I should be doing a little bit more. Plus I had occasionally done other videos that weren't directly modelling related, and there had been interest in them, and I was thinking to myself, how do I put that in? And you know, I'd been talking with my daughters and stuff about it, and you know, they were very much of the thought that I should start a second channel, and I took the view that starting a second channel would dilute this channel, and I didn't want to do that. And so I came to the conclusion that people that know me are interested in modelling. And so if I do anything on modelling, they're all interested one way or another, you know, with a few exceptions. Some people are, you know, stick to their particular niche of the hobby. But other people would also be interested in the more personable side. And so if I kept it within the channel, that would make more sense, and I'd probably get more views than if I started another channel, and it wouldn't water this one down. I wouldn't have to devote time away from this channel. So that was sort of the thought process, and that ended up being model kit other stuff, and we started seeing that from early September. And that's gone down really well. We've tested the water with a few different things. We brought a new format, the outside walk and talk format, which worked quite well. So yeah, I've been quite pleased with how that's come together. It's given me some thoughts on how to improve that. You know, I've had one or two people who say, why are you charging people to see this or that? I think you're completely missing the point. Most of what I do is done free for you to view. There needs to be some remuneration so that we can create content for the channel, because if I do a tool review, a product review, or a kit review, or a builder kit, and therefore all the paints and things that are needed for that kit, they have to be purchased, and they have to be purchased by the channel, because I no longer use my personal income on the channel, because that goes on the increase of my shopping bill and the energy bill and the council tax and all that sort of stuff. So the channel is a reflection of the hobby, and the income that the channel makes fuels the hobby, which creates the content for you. That's the point of why you pay. Members get extra stuff because they're paying and contributing and are backing the channel. That's how that works. So that will continue next year. We've already talked about how we're going to expand that. If you're a member now, that's been already talked about in the members only section. I will talk about it more fully next year, closer to the time when I launch the third stream of the members only thing. And what I want to do is revamp it. It's time we put a new video in the join box, which better explains things, and will also explain the new format. So I need to redo that. I also need to redo the introduction to the channel video, which is now out of date. So all stuff that I want to do in the next 2 or 3 months. Let's see, then that gets us to October. We're well underway with Lady Eleanor by then. And we have the Eagle well underway, and then we've got the members only group build started 1st of September, which means we're starting to see the General Lee, and I think it's October you see the second part of the General Lee. So there's a bit of a lag before you see any of those, and that is for some members only, but ultimately when that build series is finished, all other members will get to see it briefly as a pre-review of the whole series for a week or so, and then it'll go out to all subscribers. So that's aiming to do that around about March time when the showcase comes out. Then we had a little bit of a break in November for various reasons, and then that sort of gets us to where we are now and what we've been doing recently. All the current builds were ongoing now, and December, January is feeling like another period of change. So let's talk about what I envisage is going to be happening in 2026. So what does 2026 look like? Let's start with plastic, and obviously the early part of 2026 carries on from where we are. So I'm hoping to finish the Eagle, but it's possible we might be just finishing off the Eagle as we enter 2026. But for you, the build diaries of the Eagle will carry on into the early part, certainly January, maybe even a little bit into February. When I've finished with the Eagle, I'm going to concentrate very much on my General Lee build, because I'll only have 3 months left at that time. So that will become a main focus, which is obviously just for some members only. So the other build that we'll need to get stuck into is also the Wessex helicopter, which was the Airfix new tool this year. So I'm going to be doing that as a build with Gaahleri, as a buddy build, and during that process I'm also going to be proving some of the bits and pieces that I want to do in 2026 for the members, such as the club night. So we'll be having a play with communicating and that sort of stuff, what we can do live and so on and so forth. So we're going to be having a bit of a play around with that. So that will be an important build from that point of view. It's also something very different to anything we've done recently on the channel, so it'd be a nice breath of fresh air for me and a bit of a change of pace. So in the terms of plastic, early up to March, I'll be focused on the General Lee and the Wessex. Once the General Lee is finished, or the Wessex, whichever we finish first, then that will be sucked up by the Scharnhorst, and we will concentrate just on the Scharnhorst. The aim is to just get it finished and get the build over the line for you. But that's not the only plastic we're going to do in 2026. So there will be times when I'm just working on the Scharnhorst. There might be some time right at the start of the year, depending on how they overlap, where I don't have much in the way of plastic for the Friday night. I've got plenty on the wood side for now, so that can fill in the gap. So if we move briefly to the group builds, that will help with understanding what the other plastic builds are for me this year and what my plan is. So in January we plan to launch all the group builds, because all the group builds, with the exception of one which we've not talked about before, are all being run for 12 months. And the reason for that is the nature of the group builds. So first of all, we're going to do floaty things again. It's been popular. People love building ships and nobody really caters for it other than model kit stuff when it turns to group builds. So that's what we're doing. So that, by its nature of the fact that you're building a ship and they're generally more complex models, that gives you 12 months to complete it. But just like this year, 2025, you don't have to have started the build in year. You only have to finish the build in year. So if you started something this year for the 2025 group build and you've not got it finished, that's all right. You can pop it into the 2026 group build, finish it off and put it in that Floaty Things showcase. So it'll be called Floaty Things 26. That's what it'll be called, because I've sort of got the feeling we're doing that one every year. It's been that popular. So brilliant. Floaty Things starts January, ends December, same rules as this year. The only real rule is it has to be something that clearly floats or is intended to float. So you could do a boat, for example, a lifeboat on a trailer being pulled by a 4x4. You could do that because the main thing is the floaty thing. You could do a vehicle floating down a river as a diorama, so the context is it's floating. So you've got those, or you can just build a ship, but it's not an airship. It's not something that floats in the air. It's not a glider or a hang glider. It is something that is designed to float on water, and that's the intention. So the other group build that will be running is the general open to everyone group build, like the Floaty Things group build, and that's called In Context. And I'll be asking you to, in some way, put the model in context. So by that I mean it goes on a base, it has a bit of scenery, it has some figures, it has something that gives you some context. So you could build a car and then put it in a garage setting. So the context is the car's in for repair or being done up or whatever. Or you could have the car on a dust track and have a figure with a checkered flag. So the context is it's been in a race. Or you could have it with some gangsters and the context is it's the getaway car. For example, so military vehicles, easy to do in context, a little bit of scenery or some figures around them, dead easy. Aircraft, a little bit more of a challenge. You could show the propellers spinning and have it in flight. That would still be context. Or you can have it on a section of flight deck with crew refilling it. That gives it context. Or you could have it, depending on your scale, there's the Airfix supply sets, so you can give an aircraft some context that way. Anything that gives it some context, but not a model on its own, because you don't have the context. So you can't build a TIE fighter and have it on a display stand because there's no context to it. So that is the group build, which again will start the 1st of January and it will end probably, we're going to say that ends at the end of November, so that I've got time to put the showcase together between the Christmas and New Year break. So you're probably going to get just 11 months for that, but it will start in January nonetheless. Then we have the members only group build, which there's already one running, the Wheelie Things running, but we will start the second one so that people can jump into that when they're ready, because some people have completed their Wheelie Things already, and that will be called Anything But Military. And the rules is you can put any model of any type you like in, as long as it is clearly not military. So you could put in, for example, a military vehicle, but you'd have to show it no longer in military service and now being used as a commercial vehicle, for example. So military tow truck that's now being used as a commercial tow truck, and paint it in that way with a commercial livery. But otherwise it opens you out to sci-fi, commercial vehicles, commercial aircraft, in terms of ships and boats, pleasure craft, tugboats, trams, Also, anything is acceptable as long as it's clearly not in military use. Now, there is another group build going to be happening, and we've not talked about it before. And the reason we're doing another group build is because I've given you those 3. So there's a members only one, 2 subscribers only ones, and you've got lots of time to do them. But some people were commenting that they quite like the time pressure to give them some focus. So I'm going to indulge you, and I'm going to let you have some time pressure. So we will be running a group build from the 1st of March, and that group build will run for 6 months. And that will feed into one of my plastic builds. My plastic build for that will be this that you saw earlier, the Stranger Things Hawkins Police Chief vehicle. Why? Because the group build is going to be called TV and Film. So it's going to allow you to do anything that's related to TV or film. So that could be that ambulance that you've been planning to do as a diorama for the K2 ambulance to do Ice Cold in Alex that you've had on the shelf for a few years, you've been planning to do. You could do that because it's film, or you could do Star Wars because it's film and also TV series now, or you could do the Starsky and Hutch car, or you can fill your boots. I don't mind what it is as long as you can tell me the TV series or the film it's from when you build it. Those are the rules. You can use aftermarket, you can use whatever you like to come up with a model of something that is recognisable. So you could do Echo 1 from Ghostbusters, or you could do the DeLorean from Back to the Future, anything, but you've got to be able to tell me what film it's from. So I will be building this during the course of the year as part of that group build for TV and film. So obviously Stranger Things, the police chief, that fits the bill. I can build that standalone. I'm not going to put it in context. I'm not going to put it on a display base. It will just be my entry. So that is one of the builds that you're going to see in 2026, or at least that's the intention at the end of 2025. Okay, so to fulfill the other group builds, rather than doing a build for each one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do one that straddles both, and we're going to build HMS Agamemnon. So that will be a floaty things, but at the same time we're going to put it in context, so it'll be okay for the in context. And the in context will be, we're going to put it in a nice little seascape, and then we're going to add the Martians, and we're going to turn HMS Agamemnon into the Thunderchild. So that's the plan. The plan is to paint a black hull, white upperworks, yellow funnels, give it a Victorian vibe, and have a little bit of fun with it. So we want to have some of these guns in action. We want to have one of the 2 1:350 scale tripods that's in this kit, one of them being rammed and toppling into the sea, maybe with legs over the bow of the ship there, and then we're going to have the other tripod. You can see the imagery on the side of the box. One of them's got heat rate, so that heat rate is going to be landing on the Thunderchild. So that means that we're going to have gun smoke, we're going to have smokestack smoke, we're going to have fluttering flags, splashing water as the heat rays pierce the deck. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to have a lot of fun with this. I'm really looking forward to it. So it's going to scratch that itch of building a 1:350 ship that I've not done for a little while. It's going to put it in context, and it's going to be a floaty thing, and we can do that as one build. So those are the 2 plastic builds, other than the Wessex helicopter. So that's 3 plastic builds that will interrupt the Scharnhorst. When they're done and the Scharnhorst is done, then I'll think about what's next. At this moment in time, I don't know. It could be the Douglas Bader Bulldog that I've got on pre-order. It could be I do something completely different and we go up to the stash together and we decide what do we want to do. I might shortlist them and say, all right, these are the ones that speak to me, which one would you like to see? And we might do that. I don't know. It's all down to Scharnhorst and how quickly I can get that over the edge. So that's what's coming in the world of plastic for me. I would like to try and get an aircraft in there as well as the helicopter if I can. So other than the mule, which is usually an aircraft and is likely to be an aircraft, just because the wings give you some surface area to play with that's a little bit unbroken. So yeah, that's the plan when it comes to plastic. I don't see that I've got time to fit anything else in. So yeah, so we will finish, if everything goes to plan, we'll finish the General Lee, the Space 1999 Eagle, the Chevy Blazer from Stranger Things, and then we'll have Martians and the Thunderchild. So that's 5 plastic builds there. Helicopter, 6 plastic builds, and Scharnhorst we will try and finish, so potentially 7 plastic builds. Now last year, 2024, I managed to do 9 builds, so not a problem. Only this year I've done nowhere near 9, so possibly a problem, because as well as plastic we've got wood. So let's talk about that. So when it comes to wood, we've got some different things going on next year, quite a few different things. So there's a little bit to get through here. So in terms of where we're going to be at the start of the year, I am going to be very close to finishing the Lady Eleanor build at the start of the year. Now I could get it done by the end of this year, and there's part of me thinking let's get it done by the end of this year. But the reality is I'm well ahead on the build compared to where you guys are on the build videos, and I've got plenty of content that we can put out for the Grecian. So I can afford to give that a break and finish the plastic builds and keep momentum going with the plastic. So I can afford to have a break for a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, a month even, and it wouldn't worry me. That's not quite my intention though. I am going to try and finish it over Christmas along with the plastic builds. The Eagle is a lot closer than you might think. The General Lee I've still got time for, but it needs a lot more work. We're nearly there though. I mean, once we start putting paint down on the body, it's then simply putting all the parts together and dealing with the fit issue that I'll have with every single part. So in terms of wood, this is an easy win now. It's put the sails on the booms, put the figures on, do the nets, do the rigging. It's as simple as that. We've weathered it now. Weathering is completed. So yeah, that is an early 2026 completion story. When we have finished the Lady Eleanor, I'm just going to remove her out of the way. When we finish the Lady Eleanor, then we are then going to tackle the third build of the 4 wooden builds for absolute beginners, and that'll be the Grecian. And we're going to do this completely, well, I say completely differently. We're going to do it a little bit differently, I suppose. Firstly, there's going to be some new skills in there. So it's the first time we do a ship's boat, for example. So we've got something we've not tackled before. It's also the first time we'll have coppered a hull. So we'll be going through that process. That's why it's in the absolute beginners, because we're building yet again more tasks on top of that. So that'll be good. We've got 2 masts, but this time with fuller rigging than on the Lady Eleanor. So we've got 2 masts, fore and aft rigged with a little bit more rigging, but again, dumbed down rigging. So we've got some basic rigging to do. We'll be doing a little bit more on the rigging, but what we're going to do is we're going to build by principles. So what we've done in the very first build, I just showed you how to build it. That gets you sucked into the hobby. So if we'd started out on the Sherborne with, right, let's talk technically about how we do all of this, it would have put people off. People wanted to open the box, take the excitement and apply it into building the kit. So that's what we did in the first one, and we just dealt with what's in the box, and this is how you build it, and get you from a box of bits to a completed model and something you can be proud of. And then the second build, we've built on that and started talking about, well, you know, you can go beyond the box. So we've done weathering, we've done staining wood, we've done improving the finish of the blocks. Little things that build up to make a big difference to the finished model. We'll have done figures, we'll have made our own nets, we'll have talked about personalising it and so on and so forth. Things that you can do quite easily with a commercial vessel, but you can then apply that onto military vessels. So the hope is by the time we do the fourth one, those people that have built along will feel confident enough to be able to personalise it themselves. So with the Grecian, when I say that we're going to build it by principle, what we're going to do is we're going to highlight the principles of model building as I see them and highlight them, so that at the end of the build you've not just learnt some new stuff and completed the build, but you've also got a little list of principles that you can apply to every build you do going forward to help you get over the line. So it's a little bit of technical assistance, aid memoirs if you like. So my first principle, for example, will be have a plan. You don't just open the box, turn to the first page and the instructions and start building. I mean, you should never do that with any model, quite frankly. So not all of the principles will be aimed solely at wooden kits, but most of them will be. So there'll be principles on, you know, technique and that sort of stuff as well. But the main principle to start with is have a plan. By that I mean, how do you want to finish your model? Because that influences how you're going to build your model. Are you putting in a seascape? What stand is it going to go on? Are you going to add aftermarket? Are you adding sails? Are you weathering it? All of those questions. So we're going to build by principles, and we'll highlight the principles, and at the end of that series you'll have this list of principles that we have built up that you'll be able to go, right, okay, I can refer to that. Right, step one, I'm starting the kit, my first principle is. Then there'll be, you know, step two, I'm building the hull. Am I wanting to varnish it? In which case the principle is use a planking fan, or, you know, whatever. There's a whole list of principles that I apply. I wouldn't say that they are the principles that all modelers use, or any other modeler uses for that matter, but they are my principles that are clear in my head when I'm building a wooden model ship. So we're going to build it by principles. So yeah, this will be fully painted. We won't be leaving anything other than the deck on this in the wood. Everything one way or another will get painted to a greater or lesser degree, or maybe stained. What I want to do is carry on with the theme of personalising it, of making the model your own and building on what we learnt from the Eleanor. And yeah, so this will be the next wooden build, which we will see started in 2026. I don't see any reason why we won't finish it in 2026, but there is a slight chance that we might not, and that's because we don't need to start it immediately, because the Lady Eleanor will have a period of time where the videos are still going out but she's finished. which is time that I can allot to the helicopter at the start of the year. But also this won't be the only wooden build, so we will have a second wooden build on the go at some point in the first quarter of 2026. We will have a nice surprise come along, and my intention is to build that straight away, and I want to just explain to you what the focus is. Firstly, I think it's going to be a very popular kit, and I think it'll be very helpful to have someone building. So yes, you'll have the prototype build that you'll be able to follow, but it's more an update rather than a practicum. So although that will be available for seasoned modelers, they won't need to build along. They'll be able to jump in and do their thing. And I'm sure one or two people will start putting it out on various different social medias of different types. But for me, what I want to do is I want to build it and give you the opportunity to sort of be part of something bigger. This will be the ultimate HMS surprise build. It will be based on the Master and Commander book series, and will be very much it'll be the first time you've seen me build a model for me, because the ones in the build series are for you, therefore demonstrating how we do things rather than me doing things to create the model I want to put on display. It's a big difference, actually. It's a really big difference. I wouldn't have built the Sherborne the way I have built the Sherborne if I'd been building it for myself. So if I'd chosen that as a model and said, right, we're going to build this and filmed it for you, it would look different at the end than it has done now. Plus, I'm learning new skills as well. I've got a rope walk now, I've got a seizing machine now, so I'd like to mess around with the cordage, because there's certain limitations for the manufacturers of these kits. For that, there's certain things they can't do. You know, it's not viable to be creating wormed and seized ropes and that sort of stuff. So we can have a play with surprise. The way I see it is the hull should build up fairly consistently in terms of speed. It's not going to be like a lot of model ship builds where you build the frames and you move really quickly, then you're doing the planking and you move really slowly because you've got loads of planking to do, and then the planking's done and you start picking up speed again because you're doing deck fittings and painting and stuff like that. It's not going to be like that because there's a lot less actual hull planking to do. So much more of it is template, but there is also a lot more complexity. So you've got gunport linings and that sort of stuff. So we've also got the stern galleries that you can populate. There is some basic stuff coming with it, some figures and some furniture, but if you want to make it a bit more like the Master and Commander film, then there's some little wooden cabinets that we can add on the wall, and so we've got a bit of scratch building fun we can have with the surprise. Surprise will be a slow build. Firstly, because it's not going to be my principal build, and secondly, because it's a big old project. So I'm estimating 2, maybe longer years. It all depends on how long it takes to get through the rigging. Now, when we've completed all 4 models in the absolute beginners build, so we're going to do the Grecian, then we're going to do the Adder. When that's complete, we might be able to pick up speed on surprise, which probably will be about the time that we're in the rigging, and the rigging's taking a bit longer and it's all becoming a bit of a slog. So at that point it might fit in nicely that we've just got one wooden build on the go. So that's where we will be in 2026. We'll be starting the surprise. That's going to lead to some changes in membership because I'm going to do some of the surprise live, and you'll have to be a member to join those live streams. it will be an opportunity not only to build along with me, but to ask questions on, you know, I've got this fit issue, I've got this, I've got that. People are always asking me questions. So that will give you an opportunity to on the live build, ask me some questions. So you'll be able to see me build, you'll be able to build along and join a live chat, and it'll be a nice, relaxed sort of build experience. So that'll give you a little bit more access to me as I'm building the wooden model ship. I think there'll be a lot of interest in that ship, despite the fact that it's going to have a hefty price tag. There is a lot of interest in the film. There's bound to be someone who decides that the Surprise is absolutely the best wooden model ship for them to build their first ever wooden kit. There's bound to be, even though it would be a ridiculous prospect to go and start that. I imagine this is going to be a fairly significant skill level. You know, if it's not master, it's going to be at least experienced. So, you know, you need to have completed the 4 models in my absolute beginners to be able to tackle it, would be my view. All of the stuff that we produce over 2026 on the Surprise will still be there. So if you save up to buy Surprise and you don't get it till 2027, you can still build along and feel like you're building along. So from that point of view, we'll be putting a lot of good quality content out on the wooden model ship front. Whether we get something else from Vanguard during 2026, I don't know. I know there's a pipeline of all sorts of stuff. Chris has said to me that he'd like to do some smaller stuff. I know that he's got 1 or 2 other bits and pieces that he's planning to do, and some of that ain't small. So, you know, we will have to wait and see. What I can tell you though is Model Shipworks. I think I'm saying that right. I always forget their name. I don't know why. They reached out to me a little while ago wanting me to review one of their kits. So they've reached out to me through one of their UK retailers. So early in 2026, we'll be reviewing the Model Shipways kit. I know another channel's already building it. What I've been tasked with doing is doing a review of it. Interestingly, they've asked to see the video before it goes live, and usually I've always refused to do that. And the reason is, if you don't have trust in your product, don't give it to me. The reality is, if I am given a product that I don't want to review, I'll just give it you back. You all saw me quite publicly do that on Table Talk with the Angora Models Constitution. I just sent it back and said, I'm not prepared to build that, because I don't think it's something that should be promoted to people as something you should invest your money in. It's an awful lot of money you're investing into something that is, quite frankly, pap, you know. So I just wouldn't do it. So if it turns up and I think the kit's a load of rubbish, we won't review it. The truth of the matter is, I know the kit's not a load of rubbish, but having said that, I definitely will have some thoughts on it. So we're going to get the kit, we're going to review it, I'm going to film it, I'm going to send him the link, and he can say yay or nay. And the only reason that I've agreed to do that is because he's had a bad experience where someone who had an affinity with another modelling brand ripped it apart, apparently. I don't know. I don't have affinities to modelling brands. I have a preference to which brand I prefer to build, and there will be a video coming out soon which will explain why that is. But that is it. It's a preference. I don't have allegiances. I'm not, you know, in that way. If I'm presented with a kit and it's an excellent kit, I'm going to say it's an excellent kit. I don't care who made it. You know that. You know, come back to integrity. We've kept talking about that over the course of this year. I'm going to stop banging on about it. But yeah. So I'm looking forward to reviewing that. It will be the only time, and I mean it, the only time that I'm prepared to share the video with them first. If they say no, you can't show it, I will tell you all on here. And I'm not going to be censored. So although I might not be able to talk about the kit directly, I will be able to tell you what I've said and why they've said I can't show it. But that's not what I'm expecting to happen. What I'm expecting to happen is I will give a review, I will say what I genuinely think about it, I will give it to them, and they will be probably happy for me to put it out. But that's down to them. The worst case scenario is I've got a kit here I need to pass on to somebody. You know, that's the worst thing that comes out of it. So I've got nothing to lose. Is it a kit I'm likely to build? Probably not. It doesn't sit within my key interests. It's not the sort of scale that I would typically want to build. I have built one of their kits before, but I'm, you know, and it was nice. It was a nice kit, nice quality kit. I'm not quite finished it though, so it'll be interesting to see what I think of it. So we have another brand that we're going to review, and I think that's always interesting for you guys, because I quite often get, well, you know, how does this comparison? The problem is when you're reviewing very high quality end kits, you can give people, especially people new to the wooden ship hobby, the impression that that's the standard, and it absolutely ain't. High quality kits stand apart from the general standard, and it's because they're high quality. It's the attention to detail, not just in how they're designed to put together, but in the quality of the materials used. Whereas you've got manufacturers out there that put volume out, and that's a different thing. So Angora came to me and said that their priority was high quality materials and a high quality product, but then they built a relationship. And when I look at the top 10 wooden kit manufacturers, I would place the manufacturer they're working with at 9. So, you know, everyone's got a different business model at the end of the day. And we've gone off on a bit of a tangent, which I said I wouldn't do. But one of the things that I want to try and do during 2026 is get 1 or 2 other brands of ship kits, get them the more modern ones, and review them so you can see the differences between the manufacturers. So the channel will pay for them, and then I'll probably sell them on and get the funds back into the channel. It is sort of the plan. So we've done a Constructor one recently, but though it was a fairly old one, so we might want to get a newer one. It would be nice to get the flagship models of all the wooden manufacturers and go, there you go, let's compare the flagship models. But you know, you'd end up with half a dozen HMS Victories on here, and who wants to do that? I do want a decent HMS Victory, and obviously the Caldercraft one is undoubtedly the best Victory out there. It's just big. It's big. I mean, it was designed in 172 because the usual 164 standard would have made it bigger. It's a pretty big model, but I'm thinking I'd like to build it in one of the smaller scales, which could be the I think probably the next best one would be the Artesina Latina new release one, not the not the anatomy one where you see the innards, but the base one, which is a fair bit cheaper. That's probably the next best one, because they have worked quite closely with the HMS Victory Trust people at Portsmouth. Who knows? But it would be nice to try and get some of the better models from each of the manufacturers, the most recently done ones, and say, this is what I think. So we've done Pavel Nikitin's Viking longboat. We've done Amati's Titanic, but maybe we need to get one of their period ships. But we have done the Victory models. Fly, haven't we? So maybe we've already done Amati, and we need to look at some of the other brands. That might be a thing for 2026, 2027, pulling those together slowly but surely. So that's where we are with wood in 2026. You're going to see 3 different builds during the course of the year. Ultimately, where I want to get to with wood, and we're talking a little bit down the line, is to have 2 to 3 wooden builds on the go in different states. So you've got one in rigging, one in hull planking, and one in sort of final decoration and masting, so that you sort of I can hop between them depending on my mood, or maybe have 2 running or something like that. That's where I'm going to. And in terms of plastic, I think the principle is going to be focus on one build at a time, and which means that we will get them out more quickly, because Scharnhorst has been frustrating for me, and I know for you, the viewer, and it just means we'll have better, more focused plastic builds from that point on. So yeah, a lot going on in 2026. We will be doing Telford again. We've got lots to think about in terms of shows. I haven't done the Stoke show for a little while, so maybe we will try and do that. So yeah, plus I'm going to be going to the Greenwich Naval Museum, so undoubtedly we will do a video around that. So just me and Paula are doing that. So, and anything else that comes along that I think might be of interest. On the members only side, we've already talked about that in the members update. But if you're not a member, things to consider. You'll have extra access. Some of the plastic builds you will see first. Some videos you will see first, and we'll be focusing on modeller's health in the other stuff. So lots going on next year. Busy year. I cannot wait. Right, so usually at this point I say that's it. We've covered it all off. Have a great week and enjoy your modelling. But I am not going to talk to you in this frame until 2026. So let's just quickly go through what you can expect to see between now and 2026. So tomorrow I'm going to open the Sherborne showcase. So from tomorrow you'll be able to send me pictures of your Sherborne builds, which we can put in the Sherborne only showcase. Those of you that have already shared Sherborne for the end of year showcase or for floaty things, I'll automatically put those pictures in. Don't worry, you don't have to send them again. But we'll talk about that tomorrow. Then on Monday we have the comparison of HMS Nelson and HMS Sherborne. So yeah, you'll get an understanding of the comparison of those two kits. I think the video is going to be called Why I Like Vanguard Models, or something like that. So yeah, it's quite an interesting video because they're it's the same designer doing essentially the same model, but one with gloves on and one with gloves off, so to speak. Wednesday, so Christmas Eve, we have the mother of all plastic first impressions. It's the largest plastic kit I have ever reviewed. The next one that comes even close would be the 1:24 scale Typhoon car door, which was massive, absolutely massive to review. And that's the Karl mortar, big German railway mortar. So yeah, I think I recorded that 12 months ago, or maybe even longer. Sorry, purchased that 12 months ago, but I only recorded it about a month ago. So we've got that coming out. Christmas Day, probably nothing. Then on Friday the 26th, we will have, which is Boxing Day, we're probably gonna have nothing, because I'll be doing stuff with family. Now on the Saturday, what we're gonna do is we're gonna do Eagle Part 6. That may be a premiere, it may not, but there won't be a table talk, but there may well be that. The 28th, I haven't got anything planned at this moment in time, but there may be a modeller's health episode focused on stress. A lot of people get lonely and struggle with stress around Christmas, so I thought that would be a good one to do. Then on the 29th, Monday the 29th, I plan to do the Sherborne showcase. Is that right? That seems a bit close. No, we'll do the Sherborne showcase in the next year. So I'm not quite sure what... I think I might have mixed those up. I think, yeah, I have. It's the floaty things showcase. Yeah, so 27th the Eagle, 28th the floaty things showcase. I think we've got enough. Sorry, on the Monday the floaty things showcase, and then on the 31st we probably got nothing on that day, and then Wednesday the 31st is the actual showcase, end of year showcase at the end of year, and then on Thursday the 1st there'll be the group build launches. That will be happening. Then on Friday the 2nd we'll have Lady Eleanor Part 6, and then on Saturday the 3rd we will have Table Talk again. Now that is also the start of me having a 2-week holiday and a 2-week break, so that'll be a break from doing videos. I do it every year, so the start of January you won't be getting any videos other than Table Talk videos. So I will still be doing modelling, but what I won't be doing is editing and getting out immediately. I'll be editing and building up for the year ahead. Otherwise it's just too much, and because we've had such a busy end of year, I just need to put my feet up a little bit. So I'll be doing that. I'll be taking a break from video editing for immediate release, and that'll get me ahead a little bit. So you'll have a couple of weeks where you won't see much from me, and that is sort of it for the view ahead, I think. So yeah, so lots going on. That gets you sort of up to speed with the channel over the next few weeks, over the next 12 months, and gives you a bit of an insight. So I hope you've enjoyed that. I've really enjoyed this year with you guys, especially the members area. That has been fantastic. We've got a lovely little modelling community now of like-minded people, and I enjoy it immensely. And what I want to see going forward is more people who are like-minded coming and joining and getting involved. This channel is very much about you now. Although it follows my hobby has expanded into making YouTube videos for you, so you're all part of my hobby. So the last thing to say is, you know, regardless of how you celebrate or what you celebrate at this time of year, what I can do is wish you all the very, very best for 2026. I wish you well. I wish you good, health, good mental health, and a great, phenomenal, maybe even your best ever modelling year. 2026 is going to be very, very positive. I'm looking forward to it. Let's have some real fun, and whatever it is you're building, I'm going to be seeing it, because it's going to be fitting in with one of my showcases and my group builds. So have a wonderful festive season, take care, and we will regroup in the new year and find out what it was you got from Santa, if that's what happens in your house. Right, take care everyone. Until I next see you, you enjoy your modelling. Bye for now.